My name is Dr. Randy Law. I'm the curator at the Southern Museum of Flight. Today we are in what we call the Shadow Gallery. And the Shadow Gallery at the Southern Museum of Flight, it basically tells, through image and some signs, the history of the Central Intelligence Agency, the CIA, and its predecessor, the OSS, the Office for Strategic Services. I want to talk about one particular piece here today. This is a painting by Jeffrey Bass, who's done several other paintings at the CIA Museum, and we have lithographs of it here in the Shadow Gallery. And this tells, this gives us the opportunity to tell the story of Virginia Hall, who is widely acknowledged as the most successful, the most important female American spy in the 20th century. And it's a really, really cool story. I can tell you about it. Virginia Hall was born in 1906 in Baltimore, Maryland, to a well-to-do cosmopolitan family that really encouraged her to get an education. She went to Barnard and Radcliffe and George Washington University. She ended up finishing her education in Europe. She became fluent in French and German, and apparently actually became passable in Russian as well. She really wanted to become a diplomat, but she was a woman, and so she wasn't able to. So she found a job as a clerk in consulate offices in Europe, stamping visas and the like. She was in Poland and Turkey and Estonia and Venice, Italy as well. Apparently at some point along the way there was a hunting accident. She shot herself in the leg and it was amputated after it turned gangrenous. And she was fitted with this bulky, heavy wooden prosthetic leg that she called Cuthbert. She had a good sense of humor, Virginia Hall. So she was working as a consular clerk, not really loving it, and she wanted to be a diplomat for the U.S. Foreign Service, but they would not hire her because she was a woman. The ostensible reason why they refused her application is because there was some obscure regulation on the books that the Foreign Service wouldn't hire people with limited mobility. She left the consular service, the Foreign Office, in 1939, made her way to France, where she was working as a journalist. When war broke out, when World War II broke out, and Germany invaded France in the spring of 1940, she was a committed anti-fascist, so she ended up being an ambulance driver for the French. Well, after 6 weeks and the German defeat of the French, she left France, made her way to Spain, and then eventually to Britain, and the British recognized her talent. And she was hired by the SOE, the Special Operations Executive, which was a new organization created by the British to gather intelligence and in particular to conduct covert operations behind enemy lines. So she returned to France in the summer of 1941. She made her way to the south of France, to what was called Vichy France. Vichy France was a French fascist collaborationist government working with the Nazi Germans. Vichy France was nominally independent. So she was working from Lyon in southern France. She worked with the emerging French resistance, gathering intelligence and coordinating money and weapons and ammunition to them, and she was very effective. Her most famous exploit in 41-42, when she was working in the south of France, was she coordinated and helped carry out a prison break from a prison in the south of France that liberated a dozen members of the French resistance who had been arrested by the Germans and the Gestapo. So at the end of 42, after a year and a quarter or so of really good work, she found out that the Americans were getting ready to invade North Africa. So she left France, made her way to the southwestern border of France, and hiked more than 50 miles over the Pyrenees into Spain to get out of Vichy, which was about to be flooded with more German agents and soldiers. So let's remember, she was doing all of this in Vichy, France, with her wooden leg. The French called her La Dame qui boite, the lady who limps. And the Germans learned about this and learned to identify her that way. They called her die hinkende Dame, the limping lady. Okay, so November of 1942, the United States is getting ready to invade North Africa. She is tipped off about this, and she knows, and her American handlers and British handlers know what this means, that the Germans are probably then going to flood Vichy France with troops and more agents. And they already knew about her. So she decides to get out of the south of France, and she makes her way to the southwestern border of France, knowing that Gestapo agents are looking for her. She she warns. She tells the British that she's making this move, and she tells them that Cuthbert is acting up. The British, though, don't know that Cuthbert is her prosthetic limb, and they tell her, if Cuthbert is giving you difficulty, have him eliminated, which gives you a little bit of a sense of the stakes at the time. She makes her way to the border with Spain. It's November. She has to hike through the winter over the Pyrenees, over 50 miles, into Spain to get out of France, knowing that the Germans are after her. And she does, and she makes her way through Spain and then back to the British Isles. But the UK didn't want to reinsert her into France because her cover had been blown. Thankfully, by this point, the Americans had learned about her and appreciated her talents, and she was hired by the Office of Strategic Studies, the OSS, which was the predecessor to the Central Intelligence Agency. They gave her some more training, sent her back into France in the spring of 1944, where she was really charged with doing a lot of groundwork to work with the French resistance to help prepare the way for the invasion of France in the north, the Normandy invasion in the south, the invasion from the Mediterranean to liberate France and to take on the Germans and kick them out of Europe. Working for the OSS in France in the summer of 1944, she did even more dangerous work. She coordinated airdrops of weapons and ammunition. She directly oversaw and took part in sabotage efforts, working with the French resistance, the Maquis, as they were called in the south of France, blowing up bridges, blowing up rail lines, disrupting German transportation and communications, carrying out direct attacks on German soldiers. She was working with, essentially overseeing 3 battalions of French Maquis, about 1,500 French resistance fighters, and working with them in attacks against German soldiers, killed 150, 200 German soldiers, captured hundreds more. Really dangerous, really valuable work. After the liberation of France, after the invasions of France from the north and south in the summer of 44. She ended up actually getting sent to Austria. She was engaged in anti-German, anti-Nazi work. After after the end of the war in 1945, she was given the Distinguished Service Cross, which is the only award in the United States above any Medal of Honor. She was the only civilian woman to receive the Distinguished Service Cross during World War II. She left the OSS, but then when the Central Intelligence Agency was created in 1947, she was hired back. Unfortunately, she was still the of real prejudice here. This is a woman of immense skill, immense talent, immense experience who had really shown what she was made of. And she got a desk job as an intelligence analyst. Eventually, she actually got hired to do covert work, assigned to do covert work by the CIA in Eastern Europe, recruiting and developing agents, but she never really got the promotion. She never got the pay. She never got, this is what galled her, she never got the responsibility that she was really capable of because she was a woman. She left the CIA in the early 60s. She never wrote a memoir. She didn't do a lot of interviews. She just was not good, not interested, maybe as a, with all of her experience as a covert agent, she wasn't interested in tooting her own horn, which is a real shame because not enough people know about Virginia Hall, recognized as the most important, most successful woman CIA agent in the United States in the 20th century. She died in 1982. She's getting a little bit of revival of interest in her, which is a good thing because the story of Virginia Hall is a really extraordinary story. I encourage you to come down to the Southern Museum of Flight, check out the painting of Virginia Hall by Jeffrey Bass in the Shadow Gallery that depicts her sending secret messages on a bicycle-powered transmitter. It's in the Shadow Gallery. Check it out. Check out the history of the CIA with an emphasis on its aviation operations in the Shadow Gallery. Come for the Shadow Gallery. Stay for the Southern Museum of Flight and all the great stuff we have on display here. See you soon.